I need the scoop.
A long-awaited pregnancy triggers a husband's complete mental breakdown, leaving his wife to navigate suicidal threats and delusional behaviour alone. This devastating Reddit confession chronicles one woman's journey through the unthinkable as her dream of motherhood becomes a nightmare of survival. Get ready for a story about love, mental illness, and the impossible choices we make when someone we love refuses to get help.
This was a very much planned pregnancy after dealing with infertility for a long time. However, despite dealing with unexplained infertility for so long, my husband always refused to get tested. He remained optimistic that we would get pregnant eventually. The thought of doing a semen analysis repulsed him so much it sent him into a downward spiral of self-hatred and insecurity. Then, surprise! I got pregnant unassisted. This should be a really exciting time for us, but all of a sudden he doesn't want to be a dad. He says he wants a divorce so I can start over with someone else. He's already found a new place to live and is in the process of moving out. He won't speak to me. He won't answer any of my questions. I'm completely and utterly confused and heartbroken. Now, I know a lot of you will say he never wanted to be a dad. It sure seems that way. But he desperately wanted us to get pregnant when we were struggling. It was just the thought that something might be wrong with him that sent him into a spiral. I love my husband, but he very clearly has some undiagnosed mental issues. He is not thinking or seeing clearly, and some of the things he's been saying seem genuinely delusional. But he won't get help. He's stubborn as hell. You'd think he would know better because he's a doctor, but nope. He says he knows something is wrong with him, but he doesn't care. He wants to disappear. After talking this through, it's becoming increasingly obvious to me that my husband is not mentally well. I didn't include his entire history in this post because I thought it best to keep it relevant to this specific situation. But he has had episodes like this before. I'm shocked it wasn't so obvious to me that something was wrong with him. I've suggested therapy in the past, but he has had bad experiences and refuses to try again. When someone asked if there's anyone in his family, or maybe a friend that he listens to, I thought maybe his mom. He talks to his dad the most, but I don't think they ever touch on anything deep or emotional. I don't think he'll talk to anyone about this. When I asked how he will explain our divorce to his family and friends, he simply said that he just won't tell them because it is none of their business, and they don't need to know. He genuinely seems borderline delusional if he believes he can just quietly divorce me without anyone knowing. I really, really want this baby. We're in our 30s and have been trying for so long. I'm afraid the stress of this will cause me to miscarry. That's probably what he wants. I don't understand why this is happening. How can you force someone to get help when he doesn't want to get better? How am I supposed to raise a child without him? I'm financially dependent on him because that was what we planned for. In summary, my husband has gone off the deep end after finding out I'm pregnant, and I don't know how to bring him back to reality and make him sane again.
The Reddit community rallied with overwhelming support, validating her fears while offering practical advice about mental health resources. As her husband's behaviour became increasingly erratic, she began documenting his threats and reaching out to professionals for guidance. Just days later, a chilling confession would force her to confront the terrifying reality of what her husband was truly capable of.
Most of the comments on my last post were so helpful. They helped me see things about my husband and marriage that I didn't see before but were so obvious. Some people suggested that his behaviour was abusive. It's not. I now know that he's severely mentally ill. After that post, a few days later, he came to me and told me he wanted to kill himself. He made sure I knew that he had no plans to actually kill himself, just that he really wanted to die. The next day, I reported his behaviour to his employer. I really wish I had done it anonymously because I felt that they didn't take me seriously at all. I got the impression that they thought I was a scorned ex trying to enact revenge. Anyway, I have no idea what came of it, but at least I did my duty in reporting it. Now that my eyes have been opened, I've noticed a lot more erratic behaviour coming from him, and it's true that he should not be treating patients in his state of mind. Some of you suggested that he never truly wanted a baby. This couldn't be further from the truth. The majority of the time, he is such a normal, kind husband, and he would speak so fondly of our future family. I truly believe that that is the real and true him, and that the man spiraling out in front of me is not who my husband really is. Anyway, not much has changed. He's actually still living with me but sleeping on the couch. Actually, I don't think he's doing much sleeping. I hear him up at all hours of the night. One night he came into bed with me and just held me. But the next morning it was like it had never happened. He's still adamant about the divorce, but somehow thinks we can do it without telling anyone or involving lawyers. He also wants to create a dating profile for me and set me up with someone else so that I can see that I'd be much better off with someone other than him. I of course told him no. He will not listen to me when I tell him I want to be with him. He brushes me off and says I'm not thinking clearly. He refuses therapy or medication. He says he doesn't want to feel better. He doesn't care that he's irrational and depressed. He simply doesn't care. He just doesn't want to get better. I'm still pregnant, and he still wants nothing to do with it. I'm so afraid I'm going to lose this pregnancy due to stress. I'm currently 5 weeks and 2 days along. The chances that I will miscarry are still high, and I'm dreading the day I find out that I've lost everything, my husband and my baby. I don't know what I would do. I need to address something that's been frustrating me about the comments. I'm getting so frustrated with people who are telling me I'm not doing enough because I'm unable to get my husband involuntarily committed to a hospital. I have zero control over this. I have spoken to a police officer as well as someone from the suicide hotline. A person cannot be committed unless they are an immediate threat to themselves or others. And it does not matter what I tell them. He has only told me that he wants to kill himself, not that he plans on doing it. And I will not lie to the police. Additionally, even if I did lie, they will still speak to him and take his statement into account. And if they do not believe he is an immediate threat, they cannot do anything. There aren't any scenarios where a wife has the authority to commit their spouse involuntarily to the hospital. I checked. I should also mention that he's been spiraling somewhat prior to this pregnancy, but not as severe and not for as long. This is just the worst episode. It was always short-lived and mild enough that I just wrote it off. He definitely doesn't think I cheated, or else he would be talking about it. I ended up calling his mom and telling her about his condition. Not about the pregnancy, though. She called him to see how he was doing, and then texted me to tell me that he seems fine.
Readers were deeply concerned by his escalating suicidal ideation, with many urging immediate intervention, despite the legal barriers she faced. The poster felt increasingly isolated, as family dismissed her concerns and professionals seemed powerless to help. 8 days of mounting desperation would lead to another heartbreaking update that showed just how alone she truly was.
I hope it's okay for me to keep posting here. I don't really like any of the other relationship subreddits. I posted a couple weeks ago about my husband not speaking to me after finding out we were pregnant. This is very much a wanted, planned pregnancy, but the positive test results sent him into a mental health spiral of sorts. I wish I could say I have good updates, but I don't. Also, not much has changed. We're still living together in the same house. However, he has converted his office to his new bedroom. He mostly doesn't speak to me, but he has had moments of clarity where he acts normal and excited about the baby. However, it never lasts long because when I try to talk to him about getting help, he just shuts down and goes back to his weird delusions. Sometimes he talks to me about how he wants me to move out. He wants me to go on dates and find someone else to be the father of our baby. He also suggested I get an abortion. He continues to tell me he wants to die and thinks daily about killing himself. I've spoken to someone at the suicide hotline twice now and have been told there's nothing I can do to force him to get help. The hospital and police will not commit him involuntarily just because he says he wants to kill himself. He has to have an actual plan to kill himself. I've seen glimpses of him in a normal state, so I know my husband is still in there. But he absolutely refuses to get help. He says he'd rather die than talk to a therapist, says he doesn't deserve to feel better, and that he just wants to fade away and disappear. My mother-in-law won't help. I think she thinks I'm overreacting. I already contacted his employer and the medical board. No one seems to think there's an issue, and I'm starting to question whether I'm the insane one. I've looked into places I can stay, and there's really no options other than staying in my home. If I leave, I may potentially forfeit the right to the house in the event of a divorce. I had my first prenatal appointment, and everything looks fine, but it's still so early, and with all the stress I'm under, there's still a chance I'll miscarry. I really don't want to, but I'm bracing for the worst. This was a very wanted and planned pregnancy. I am very pro-choice, but I can't justify myself getting an abortion for a baby that we tried for literally years. He's not faking this behavior. He admitted to me that he wishes he would get fired so he wouldn't have to quit, and apparently he has cut off contact with his family and friends. I was not aware of that before.
The community celebrated this breakthrough while remaining cautiously optimistic about his commitment to treatment. Despite seeking professional help, his condition seemed to worsen rather than improve, leaving her emotionally drained and constantly vigilant. Nearly 3 months later, with her due date approaching, a desperate plea for legal advice would reveal just how trapped she had become.
I need to check my previous posts for the full context, but a lot has changed while at the same time, I feel like I'm in the same position as I was 2 months ago. I was never able to get my husband involuntarily committed for a psychiatric evaluation. However, he eventually hit rock bottom and decided he needed help on his own. It happened shortly after the last time I posted, because he has been on medication for about 2 months now. We even found a therapist that he really likes. However, his schedule makes it literally impossible to go to therapy on a regular basis. So, he's only seen this therapist twice. I was literally so proud of him. He was proactive and committed. However, things really haven't gotten much better. He continues to be suicidal. In fact, he mentions killing himself a lot more frequently. The psychiatrist recently took him off the first medication, and now he's trying a new one. I know it's a process to get the right combination and dose of medication before it really starts to work. I am exhausted, and not because of the pregnancy, but because I've become his caretaker and punching bag. Not literally. He's never been physically abusive, and he has never really called me names, but sometimes when he is spiraling, he will push me away figuratively by saying things that he knows hurt me. He'll tell me to go be with someone else, to find a new dad for the baby. He'll accuse me of never loving him, and only using him so I could have a baby. He tries so hard to convince me to leave him, and I'm just so tired of it. It sounds selfish, but I can't take it. He has not stopped threatening to kill himself. I don't know what to do anymore. I know the baby feels everything that I feel, and that kills me. I am giving this poor child the worst start to its life. I should be experiencing joy and relaxation. Instead, I am constantly in fight or flight mode. Anyway, I've made a plan in case I need it. I need him to be better before the baby comes. I have already met with a lawyer in case I decide I've had enough. I was able to get legal advice, and now I have a lawyer on standby who already has all the information. But I feel like we're racing against the clock. I told him if he's not significantly better by the time the baby comes, I'm going to go visit my family and give birth there. Does that seem fair? I feel guilty about it because technically he is trying to get better, and it could take a while. He's doing everything he should be doing, I guess. But I have to protect myself, and I have to protect my baby. And having the baby in another state and staying there, getting a job and so on, will make it much more difficult for him to get custody if it comes to that. When someone suggested I go to my family now, I explained that I can't. Going to my family in another state is like a very last resort. I have pets here and I can't leave them, and I also can't bring them. I wouldn't have a room at my family's house.
Legal experts provided sobering reality checks about custody laws and the challenges of protecting children from mentally unstable parents. With her baby's arrival imminent, she faced an impossible choice between staying in a dangerous situation or risking shared custody with someone she no longer trusted. The premature birth would change everything in ways she never expected.
Feel free to look through my post history, but the gist of it is that my happy, stable marriage fell apart when I got pregnant. Even though it was a very planned pregnancy, my husband had a complete personality change and has been struggling with his mental health. My ideal situation does not involve leaving him. I would much rather he get the help he needs. I have spent the past 8 months dedicating everything I have to helping him get better. He does see a psychiatrist on a semi-regular basis and has been prescribed antidepressants. To my knowledge, he does take them. However, he remains passively suicidal and is adamant that I should leave him because he will be a bad father. He has never been physically violent, other than one time where he cornered me in a room and wouldn't let me out while he screamed at me. I don't have proof of that, but I do have many, many texts of his emotional abuse and mental instability. Like I said, ideally I would like for him to get better, but unless there is a legal way to force him to get help, I don't see that happening. He refuses therapy and repeatedly says he does not want to get better. So it seems my only option is to separate for the sake of my child. I need to raise my baby in a stable environment, and I can't do that with him. He has stated that if I choose to leave him, he will still provide financially for the baby. But I'm concerned that once he sees how much he will owe in child support and alimony, he will try to get 50-50 custody to avoid paying child support. And if he has custody, then it kind of defeats the whole purpose of me leaving him. My state defaults to 50-50 custody, and I have heard too many stories of women having to share custody with their abusive exes despite having proof of abuse, and sometimes even when their ex has been convicted of domestic violence. I am extremely fearful that he will be able to convince the courts that he is stable. He has a good job, he's a pediatrician, and a fantastic reputation in the community. People adore him. I adored him. But he isn't the same man I married, and I'm scared. Legally, what would you recommend to a woman in my situation? I have no local family or friends. I'd prefer not to move out of our home due to the fact that I'm 8 months pregnant, I have pets, and the nursery is already set up. I think I may be able to convince him to move out, but after that, I'm not sure what my next step is. When someone pointed out the harsh reality of my situation, I realized they were completely right. I hate this, but it was exactly the wake-up call I needed. My family lives in a good state for supporting mothers, but I'm too pregnant to fly there and it's on the other coast, so road tripping would take probably over a week. I guess that's my only option, though.
Nearly 10 months passed before she returned with an update that no one saw coming. Her husband's miraculous recovery after the birth seemed like the answer to her prayers, but motherhood had given her a new perspective on what she had endured. This final update would reveal that sometimes getting what you think you want only shows you what you actually need.
This is a 1-year update on my 32-year-old husband who became suicidal when I, a 31-year-old woman, got pregnant. What's next? I started using this account over 2 years ago to post about infertility. Eventually, my husband and I got pregnant after 2 years of trying. Unfortunately, immediately upon getting pregnant, he fell into a deep mental health spiral. Check my post history for details and context. There's a lot. Anyway, it's been many months since my baby was born, and I've been doing a lot of reflecting. Towards the end of my pregnancy, I was planning on leaving my husband. It was clear he was severely mentally ill and dangerous to himself. I was trying to figure out a way to get out of the state so I could give birth far away. Unfortunately, I gave birth almost a month early, unexpectedly. After my baby was born, my husband appeared to do a complete 180. It was like the bad stuff never even happened, and he hasn't had a single mental health episode since. It's like he just snapped out of it. He's been mostly the perfect dad ever since, and even though that was the best outcome I could have hoped for, this isn't a happy update. Being a mother, I now know what unconditional love is, and my husband never deserved mine. Even though he's better now, and that's all I thought I wanted, I cannot let go of my resentment. Every day I feel like I hate him more and more. What he put me through was abuse, plain and simple. And at the end, he got rewarded with the most perfect baby in the world. And now, I'm just here, expected to be a perfect wife and mother like nothing ever happened. But it did happen. Even though I sometimes question whether the whole thing was some weird, pregnancy-induced fever dream. It wasn't. There's no plot twist here. He's aware of my resentment towards him, but he thinks it will go away in time. However, I've only found that it's gotten worse over time. Of course, he still refuses therapy, couples therapy included. So, I see no resolution here. I feel like I'm stuck. And yes, I know I only have myself to blame for not getting out in time, but alas, here we are. The way I see it, I have several options. I can divorce him, and most days, this is what I feel like I want. But then, I really think about what divorce would mean, and it would mean my husband gets automatic 50-50 custody of our child. And that thought truly makes me sick to my stomach. I've met with a lawyer. Despite everything my husband put me through while I was pregnant, none of it is enough to take custody from him. In the state that I live in, even domestic abusers get automatic 50-50 custody unless there was abuse done to their children. I wouldn't want to leave my kid alone with a guy who is mentally ill and suicidal, especially since he refuses therapy. But the general consensus seems to be that I need to divorce him. I can't divorce him without conceding some amount of custody of my child to him. I have text messages and some voice memos I took of him while he was suicidal. My lawyer went through everything. He said it was damning evidence that my husband is a piece of but not the kind of piece of that a court would deny access to his child. My lawyer also advised that I can't relocate to establish residency elsewhere, as it would be considered kidnapping. I was advised to do it before the baby came, which was my plan, but I was thwarted by his premature arrival. Or I could stay and try to stick it out for my son by trying to let go of my anger and resentment. But I don't know how to do that. How can I forgive a man who doesn't think he's done anything that needs to be forgiven? I've been doing therapy for myself, but my therapist keeps pushing my husband and I to do couples counseling, which he refuses. I guess I just need help talking through my options with some neutral third-party points of view. Thank you in advance for any advice you can give. In summary, my husband became mentally ill and suicidal when I got pregnant. After I gave birth, he snapped out of it, but I cannot let go of the resentment I feel towards him, and he doesn't seem to care about making amends.
Sometimes the people we love most become strangers in their darkest moments, leaving us to choose between loyalty and self-preservation. This ongoing story continues to evolve as the original poster navigates motherhood and marriage, so subscribe to catch any updates on this complex situation. Share your thoughts on supporting loved ones through mental health crises in the comments, and explore our other videos for more stories about love, loss, and the courage to protect what matters most.